Hope, such a beautiful word, so soft, so gentle, so powerless. We've been sold a fantasy that hope is a plan, that hope is enough to change your life, that if you just believe hard enough, things will shift on their own, that somehow the world owes you a reward simply because your heart aches for one. But let me ask you something. What has hope ever built without action? Did Edison hope light would pour from his fingertips? Did Carnegie hope steel would shape itself? Did Disney close his eyes and pray that his dreams would animate themselves into existence? No, they didn't hope. They created. They moved. They failed. They bled into the foundation of every brick they laid, and they built something out of nothing, not because they hoped for it, but because they refused to leave it in their imagination. You see, the world doesn't respond to your desire. It responds to your decision, your devotion, your creative power. And that power lives inside you, not in some future version of you, not when you're more ready, more confident, more polished, right now. But as long as you hide behind hope, you stay soft. You stay stuck. You stay on your knees begging life for a break, instead of rising and breaking through. Hope whispers, maybe one day. Creation demands, why not today? Hope is a passenger. Creation grabs the wheel. Hope waits for the weather. Creation builds in the storm. Hope daydreams in silence. Creation shakes the ground with every step forward. And make no mistake, this world is not moved by passive wishers. It is transformed by relentless builders, by the ones who look reality in the face and create anyway. Not because they feel ready, but because they refuse to rot in the waiting room of someday. Because if you're honest, you've been hoping long enough, haven't you? Hoping for more time, more confidence, more clarity, hoping that life will get easier, that fear will disappear, that someone will finally show up and rescue you from your own potential. But no one is coming. And no, that's not a tragedy, that's your liberation. Because if no one is coming, it means it's your turn, it's your time, it's your pen, it's your damn canvas, and every second you hesitate, the masterpiece dies unborn inside you. So here's the new truth: stop hoping, start creating. Stop talking about what you'll do when the conditions are right and create the conditions yourself. That's what visionaries do. They don't wait for the light, they become it. They don't ask for signs, they become the signal others follow. They don't beg for permission, they build their future without apology. And yes, it's uncomfortable, yes, it's lonely, yes, it's slower than the fantasy in your head. But it's real, and real beats perfect every time. Because perfect is where hope hides, real is where creators thrive. So if you're tired of dreaming, and ready to build the life that won't leave you alone, then you must do something radical. You must become the architect of your own becoming. Take the blueprint out of your chest and pour it into reality brick by brick, choice by choice, breath by breath. Because in the end, your legacy won't be measured by what you hoped for. It will be carved by what you created when no one believed, when no one clapped, when no one understood what the hell you were doing. But you built it anyway, and you kept building, because you weren't waiting to be ready. You were waiting to be relentless. Every creation begins with belief, not action, not talent, not opportunity, but belief. Because belief is the architect of possibility. It sketches the ceiling of your potential, then dares you to climb beyond it. And if you're wondering why you haven't created yet, why you're still circling the same mountain of half-finished dreams, look no further than the quiet narrative running through your own mind. Because belief is not just a feeling, it's a decision engine. It determines what you do, what you avoid, what you settle for, what you fight for. You can't outrun your belief system. You can only upgrade it or be imprisoned by it. Let me be blunt. If you believe deep down that you're not ready, not worthy, not equipped, then no matter how many books you read, how many podcasts you consume, how many goals you write in gold ink, you will sabotage your own greatness. Not because you're lazy, but because your subconscious has already decided that success doesn't belong to people like you. That's the tragedy. Most people aren't stuck because they lack ambition. They're stuck because they've been programmed to doubt their own voice. Think about it. What were you told growing up? Don't dream too big. Play it safe. That's not realistic. Know your place. You were never taught how to believe in yourself, only how to survive yourself. And over time, those little lies became the walls of your mind, a mental prison disguised as maturity, disguised as realism, disguised as just being careful. But belief doesn't care about caution. Belief creates the map for your future, and your brain follows it like law. So if your belief says, I always fail, guess what? Your nervous system prepares for failure. If your belief says, I'm not meant for success, you will unconsciously repel it every time it comes close. And here's the part that should wake you up. You built that belief, which means you can tear it down, you can redesign it, you can rebuild your internal architecture brick by brick until your mind becomes a launch pad, not a prison. But how? Not by affirmations alone, not by waiting for a sudden flash of confidence. You rebuild belief by taking consistent, defiant action in spite of the lie. You show up anyway. You build anyway. You speak anyway. You ship the project. You launch the product. You film the video. You submit the pitch, not because you feel ready, but because every act of creation is an act of rebellion against the old you. And with each small defiant step, a crack forms in the wall. A little more light gets in, and your identity begins to shift. You stop asking, am I good enough, and start declaring, I'll become enough by doing. That's how creators are born, not by inspiration, by transformation. And that transformation always begins in the mind. That's why Carnegie didn't flinch when people mocked his lack of education. That's why Ford didn't slow down when his first company failed. That's why Oprah rose from trauma, racism, and rejection and rewrote her destiny with every belief she chose to carry forward. They didn't wait for someone to hand them a new identity, they created it. And now it's your turn to stop rehearsing the old limitations, to stop echoing the stories that made you small, to stop believing everything your fear tells you. You are not your thoughts, you are the creator of thought. You are not your past, you are the author of what's next. So take the pen, take the tools, take the power back, and don't just wish for a better future. Build it. But first, you must believe it's possible, even if it's just a whisper, even if your hands still shake, because that whisper will one day become a roar. There's a lie floating in the air, beautiful, seductive, dangerous. It tells you that having a vision is enough. That if you can see it, if you can taste it, if you can describe it in perfect detail on your vision board, then the universe will magically bend to your dream. But that's not vision, that's hallucination. And hallucination is the enemy of progress, because it feels like movement. It gives the illusion of work, but in truth you're standing still, wrapped in fantasy, addicted to the idea of someday, while your real life quietly erodes in the background. Don't get me wrong, vision matters. Without it, you're blind. But if your vision doesn't make its way into blueprint and blood, then it's just a well-lit illusion, a high definition maybe. The world is full of people with dreams. It is starving for people who build. Think of the Golden Gate Bridge, the Eiffel Tower, the pyramids. None of those were born in a burst of inspiration. They were planned, engineered, and suffered for. Every inch of steel, every rivet, beam, and stone anchored to a blueprint someone was willing to bleed for. So let me ask you, where is your blueprint? Not your Pinterest board. Not your scattered journal entries. I mean your daily discipline map. The clear, focused, ruthless system that says, this is who I'm becoming, and this is what I will do every day to become it. Because until you build that, your vision is just smoke. The mind loves to fantasize, but the soul only awakens when action begins. You don't become your potential by seeing it, you become it by sweating for it, by committing to structure, by showing up like it's not optional, by giving your dream a skeleton so it can walk, move, breathe live. Otherwise, your greatest ideas will die in the attic of your imagination, untouched, unshaped, unreal. And isn't that the real tragedy? That you could spend your whole life thinking about it without ever building it. So stop worshiping vision. Start designing systems. Start creating the plan you can bleed for. Because there will be days you don't feel it. Days when fear screams louder than purpose. Days when motivation is a distant memory. And on those days, it's the blueprint that saves you. Not emotion, not excitement, execution. The blueprint gives you direction when the path is foggy. It becomes the covenant between your present self and your future self. It says, no matter what I feel, I will move. Just like Ford kept building after failure. Just like Disney drew through bankruptcy. Just like Lincoln led through grief. Not because they had hope, because they had structure. Because they knew the dream is fragile without discipline to protect it. So here's your new creed. Don't just write goals, architect your life. Don't just get inspired, get obsessed with follow-through. Don't just speak it into existence, schedule it into existence. Wake up earlier, work through silence, build when it's boring, execute when no one is watching. Because that's what builders do. They don't just feel the vision, they become the hammer and chisel that brings it to life. And day by day, brick by brick, your life becomes the structure that others marvel at. Not because it's pretty, but because it's proven. And suddenly, you're not the dreamer anymore. You're the creator others dream of becoming. There's a door standing between you and the life you were meant to live. It's not locked, it's not guarded, it's not even hidden. But most people never walk through it. Why? Because that door is heavy. It doesn't open with excitement, it doesn't open with talent, it opens with discipline. And discipline isn't sexy. It doesn't look good on camera. It's not flashy. It's not something people line up to celebrate, but it's the hinge on which greatness swings. Discipline is what gets you up when your body screams to stay down. It's what moves your hands when your heart doesn't feel like it. It's what builds when inspiration dies and silence is all that's left. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the firewood. And without the wood, your flame dies every time the wind shifts. Let's be honest, you already know what to do. You've watched the tutorials, you've read the books, you've written the goals. But the question is, can you do it again tomorrow? Can you knock on that same door with the same pressure, with the same persistence every single day, whether or not it opens right away? Because it won't. The door doesn't open on day 1. It might not open on day 20. It might not open on day 200. But if you keep knocking, if you keep showing up, if you keep honoring your vow, not to the outcome but to the process, then one day the hinges give. And when they do, everything changes. Because discipline isn't just a practice, it's a portal. A portal into identity, into strength, into self-respect. You start to become the kind of person who does what they said they'd do no matter what. That's where real power begins. Not in how loud you talk about your goals, but in how quietly and ruthlessly you pursue them. Discipline strips away the noise. It rewires your nervous system. It says, this is who I am now, and I will not betray myself for temporary comfort. Because let's be honest, how many times have you quit? Not because it was impossible, but because it was inconvenient. That's the real enemy, not fear, not failure. Friction. Friction kills more dreams than fear ever could. Because friction isn't loud, it's subtle, it's the I'll do it tomorrow, the just 5 more minutes, the maybe next week. But discipline doesn't negotiate with friction. Discipline moves anyway. And that movement, that daily defiant movement, is how empires are built. It's how athletes become legends. It's how unknown artists become household names. It's how the ordinary become unforgettable. Because discipline removes the question. You no longer wake up and ask, do I feel like it? You wake up and declare it's already decided. And that decision becomes your anchor. When life gets loud, you execute. When doubt creeps in, you execute. When the path gets lonely, you execute. Because your power isn't in how much you want it. It's in how long you're willing to bleed for it without applause, without shortcuts, without rescue. And over time, the world begins to move out of your way. Not because it's fair, but because it has no choice. The universe responds to consistency. It bends to those who keep knocking, keep hammering, keep showing up like it's already theirs. And when that door finally swings open, when your habits have carved the shape of your destiny, you'll look back and realize discipline wasn't the punishment, it was the freedom. You say you want it, you say you're ready, you say you're all in. But are you really? Because somewhere hidden in the shadows is a door you rarely talk about, but you know it's there. It's the backup plan, the just in case, the safety net you never cut. And as long as that door exists, you will never fully commit. Because deep down, your brain knows you don't have to win, you just have to survive. And that's not power, that's compromise. That's how dreams die. Not in the fire of failure, but in the quiet comfort of good enough. Because when the path gets hard, and your subconscious will sprint to that door. It will whisper, let's not push too hard, let's go back to what we know, let's stay where it's safe. And in that moment, your mission dies a quiet death. Not from lack of passion, but from the presence of a way out. That's why the greats burn the bridge, they destroy the retreat, they set fire to the fallback so that forward becomes the only direction. Cortez did it in 1519. He arrived in the New World with hundreds of men facing impossible odds, and what did he do? He burned the ships. He made it impossible to return. He didn't give his men the option to escape, victory or death, mission or nothing. And with that one act, they won. Because there's a fire that only rises when your back is to the wall. When you have to figure it out. When you're no longer entertaining the idea of losing, only the necessity of becoming. And that fire, that's where legends are forged. But you can't touch it. As long as you're keeping the exit sign lit. You can't access your next level while keeping one foot in your current one. You want to create something that changes your life? Then cut the rope. Stop keeping your resume updated just in case. Stop building your dream in half measures. Stop allowing your fears to keep a spare key. Burn the backup plan. Not recklessly, but intentionally. As a sign to the universe, and more importantly to yourself, that this is no longer optional. This is who you are now. This is the only direction that matters. And if the path disappears beneath your feet, you'll build the damn road yourself. Because when there's no way out, you go all in. You access a different gear, a different grit, a different version of you that doesn't just want it, but refuses to live without it. And that version, that's the real you. The you that doesn't negotiate with fear. The you that doesn't beg for certainty. The you that doesn't ask for permission. The you that creates, that leads, that becomes undeniable. And when people ask you how you did it, how you found the strength, how you built what looked impossible, you won't say it was because of luck or timing or talent. You'll say, I had no other choice. I burned the backup plan, and I built my future with nothing but fire and resolve. The difference between those who dabble and those who dominate is not talent, it's obsession. Not the unhealthy kind, not the version born of insecurity or ego. I'm talking about the kind of obsession that builds worlds, that sharpens every thought, that wakes you up at 3 a.m. not in panic, but with purpose. Because half interest leads to half effort, and half effort builds nothing worth remembering. You don't accidentally become excellent. You don't casually craft greatness. You don't stumble into mastery. You get there because something inside of you refuses to let it go. Look at Steve Jobs. The man obsessed over font spacing. He battled his engineers over pixels and curves, not because it made financial sense, but because it had to be right. Look at Kobe Bryant. He would train 4 hours before team practice. He would shoot until the lights were turned off, not because he was behind, but because he was possessed by the vision of what he could become. This world bends to the obsessed, to the ones who keep going when logic says stop, to the ones who lean in when everyone else leans back, to the ones who look at the same thing again and again and again until it's no longer good, it's iconic. And that kind of focus, it costs you. It costs you your comfort, your distractions, your weekends, your need to be understood by people who gave up on their dreams years ago. Obsession is lonely, but it's where the great ones go to die and be reborn. Because when you're obsessed, you stop playing for applause, you stop asking for balance, you stop waiting for the perfect time, you build through the chaos. While others complain about time, you bend it to your routine. While others chase dopamine, you forge meaning from repetition. While others demand results now, you plant the seed and trust the soil. Because obsession isn't about speed, it's about depth. It's not about doing more, it's about going so deep into one thing that the world has no choice but to notice. And if they don't, you're still going. Because you didn't build this dream to impress them. You built it because you couldn't imagine not building it. You were chosen for this vision, you were crafted for this climb, and now your life is the response. Your habits, proof, your routine, the blueprint, your discipline, the sermon, and your obsession, it's the flame. So feed it, protect it, nurture it. Don't let small minds talk you out of a large mission. Because the world will tell you to take a break, to lighten up, to be realistic. But realism is for the resigned. You are not resigned. You are becoming dangerous. And dangerous creators, they don't ask if it's too much. They become too much for mediocrity to handle, for excuses to survive, for regret to find a home. So the next time someone calls you too intense, thank them, because intensity is the heartbeat of mastery. And obsession is the fire that makes impossible things inevitable. Distraction is the modern disease. It doesn't show up with fangs, it doesn't scream, it whispers. Just 5 more minutes, just one more scroll, just a quick reply, you'll get back to work after. And without warning, your momentum is gone, your rhythm is shattered, and the mission slips further into the fog. Let me be clear, distraction is not harmless, it's not innocent, it's not something to manage, it's something to starve. Because every time you trade deep focus for a shallow hit, you weaken the muscle that makes creation possible. You train your brain to prioritize noise over clarity. You teach your nervous system that urgency matters more than vision. And in that exchange, your future becomes a casualty. You can't build empires with a scattered mind. You can't write the book launch, the business, shape the legacy if you're reacting to every notification like a puppet on a string. The greats don't just protect their time, they fortify their focus like it's gold. Because it is. Focus is the gateway. Without it, you might as well not even begin. Look at Da Vinci. The man spent years perfecting a brushstroke. Look at Beethoven. He would isolate himself until the music became physical. Look at modern visionaries. They build their lives around protecting the signal and drowning the noise. So ask yourself what's stealing your signal. That app you open 40 times a day, that toxic conversation that loops in your mind, that cluttered environment that suffocates your genius. It's time to get ruthless, not polite, not reasonable, ruthless. Because if you don't starve distraction, distraction will starve your mission. And you'll wake up a year from now holding the same dream, but even further behind. Let me tell you what distraction really is. It's fear in costume. It's the part of you that would rather stay busy than brave. That would rather feel stimulated than feel discomfort. That would rather you watch others build than risk building something that might not work. But you're done with that now. You're ready to clear the battlefield, to eliminate what's not aligned, to unplug from the matrix and reconnect with your mission's original frequency. So here's the challenge. Delete the apps. Turn off the noise, clean your space. Block the sites, close the loops, leave the rooms that don't echo your purpose. And above all, sit in the silence. Because silence is not the absence of productivity, it's the birthplace of mastery. It's where the ideas live. It's where the resistance dies. It's where the next version of you has been waiting patiently beneath the layers of clutter. And once you taste that level of clarity, you'll never settle for noise again. You'll protect your focus like a sacred ritual. You'll rise early, not for hustle, but to meet the muse in solitude. And in that sacred space, you will do what distracted people never will. You will finish. You will complete the thing that matters. You will create the work that lives beyond you. You will become the person who doesn't just start, but delivers. Because creators don't just protect their time, they guard their focus with fire. And from that fire, they build worlds. You've been taught to measure your worth by what shows up. The number of followers, the size of the paycheck, the comments, the approval, the views, the validation. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. None of that is real progress. Not in the beginning. Not when it matters most. Because the algorithm doesn't know your heart. The market doesn't care about your early drafts. The world isn't watching while you're becoming. And that's exactly where resilience is born. Not in reward, but in resistance. Not in applause, but in persistence without recognition. Because real creators, the ones who finish the race, the ones who outlast the noise, the ones who shape culture, they keep showing up when the scoreboard is silent. They keep writing when the words aren't flowing. They keep building when no one is buying. They keep speaking when no one replies. They keep training when no one claps. Because they know something the world forgets. The work is sacred, even when the world isn't watching. And every time you move without reward, every time you press on without result, you sharpen the blade of your identity. You become resilient. You become dangerous. You become unstoppable. Because you're no longer controlled by outcome, you're anchored in process. Look at Lincoln. He lost election after election, faced humiliation, buried his children, battled depression. But he kept showing up. And when the moment finally came, he was ready. Because resilience had done its work. Look at Colonel Sanders. Rejected over 1,000 times before someone believed in his chicken. You think he was chasing likes? He was chasing execution. He believed in the recipe more than he needed to be praised for it. That's the key. You have to believe in the seed before it breaks the ground. You have to hold the line when the crowd has disappeared. You have to learn to love the grind that gives no gold at first. Because that's where your spirit is forged. In the days no one sees. In the tears no one knows about. In the rejections that sting more than you expected. That's where you prove to yourself that your mission isn't built on feelings, it's built on fire. So stop checking the stats. Stop obsessing over the timeline. Stop thinking every post, every launch, every effort must go viral to be valid. You are not creating for likes. You are creating for legacy. And legacy is slow, it's quiet, it's thankless for a while. But it lasts. And when it finally arrives, it's unshakable. Because it wasn't built on dopamine, it was built on grit. So hold the damn line, keep showing up. Not because the world sees you, but because you see yourself now. And that vision, that steady gaze in the mirror that says, I'm still here, I'm still building, I still believe. That's resilience. And resilience is what separates the ones who tried from the ones who transformed. You can't outperform your identity. You can try, you can hustle, you can grind until your lungs burn, but if deep down you still see yourself as small, you will always return to the level of who you believe you are. Because identity is the engine. It powers the choices. It drives the habits. It builds or breaks the results. And if your engine is built on doubt, on old labels, on broken beliefs passed down from parents, teachers, and past failures, then no matter how hard you press the gas, you won't go far. This is why some people sabotage success. Why they pull back just when they're breaking through. Why they get what they thought they wanted and then burn it all down. Because the success didn't match their internal blueprint. Let me tell you something raw. If you still see yourself as a quitter, you will always find reasons to quit. If you still see yourself as someone who never follows through, you will always look for exits. If you still carry the shame of your past, you will sabotage your future just to feel familiar. Not because you want to fail, but because failure feels like home. That's the trap. You don't rise by force. You rise by identity upgrade. You have to become the kind of person who expects excellence, who embodies discipline, who moves like success is the only option. And that doesn't come from slogans, it comes from evidence. You must give your brain new proof, not perfection, consistency, small wins stacked with intention, choices that align with the future you, not the old one trying to hold on. Because every time you act in alignment with your highest self, you're voting for a new identity. When you wake up early, you cast a vote for I am disciplined. When you speak the truth, you cast a vote for I am bold. When you show up again after falling, you cast a vote for I am resilient. And over time, those votes accumulate. They form a pattern, and that pattern becomes a belief. Until one day you look in the mirror and see someone new. Not because the world said so, but because you decided so. Look at any champion and you'll see someone who believed they were a champion before the world agreed. Ali called himself the greatest before he had the title. Jobs declared his mission before Apple had cash. Rosa Parks sat like she belonged before anyone gave her permission. They didn't wait for identity to be handed to them. They claimed it. They lived it. They let their behavior carve it in stone. You have that same power, but you must stop calling yourself by your wounds. You are not your failure. You are not your delay. You are not what they said when they couldn't see your light. You are the author. You are the creator. You are the only one who decides what your name will mean a decade from now. So build your identity like it matters, because it does. Build it with action, with repetition, with reverence. Because when your identity aligns with your mission, there's no more resistance. There's just momentum. You no longer wake up and wonder what to do. You know what a person like you does. You no longer fight to stay consistent. You embody consistency. You no longer chase confidence. You live as someone who no longer questions whether they belong. You just move with power, with peace, with certainty. And that certainty isn't arrogance. It's the natural result of becoming the kind of person who no longer doubts their place at the table because they built the table themselves. Gratitude is not weakness. It's not soft. It's not something you write in a journal once a week to feel spiritual. Gratitude is fuel. When it's real, when it's earned through pain, it becomes the most powerful creative fire you'll ever touch. Because life is going to leave marks. Let's stop pretending it won't. You've already been wounded. You've already been overlooked, abandoned, silenced, rejected. And the lie says, hide those scars, cover them up, pretend you've always been okay. But the truth, every scar is a signature, every wound is a well, and what you do with them determines what kind of creator you become. Because the world doesn't just need your strength, it needs your transformation. Not your perfection, not your performance, your alchemy. The ability to take the things that almost broke you and build cathedrals of meaning from them, that's gratitude, not the emotion, the discipline. Gratitude says, yes, that was unfair. Yes, that was painful. And still I will use it. I will not let what hurt me go to waste. I will not curse the fire. I will forge with it. Because here's what no one tells you. Your pain is raw creative power, untapped, unfocused, and waiting to be given purpose. The question is not, why did this happen to me? The question is, what will I build with it? Will you stay bitter, or will you become better? Will you stay buried under it, or will you turn it into a platform no one can tear down? Think of Viktor Frankl, a man who watched his family die in concentration camps. And what did he do? He didn't just survive. He turned his suffering into a philosophy that healed millions. Because he understood pain is inevitable. Meaning is a choice. That's your superpower, to take what others bury and build something eternal. Your heartbreak, put it into the book. Your shame, put it into the brand. Your rejection, put it into the speech, the product, the art. Turn the blade inward. Cut away the illusion. And then shape the steel of your story into something that lives beyond you. This is not delusion. This is not sugarcoating. This is the path of the creator who refuses to let life waste them. Because gratitude isn't passive. It's violent. It grabs the memory and says, you don't own me, you fuel me. That's when everything changes. When you stop seeing your past as a weight and start seeing it as a forge, you stop hiding your scars. You let them shine because they prove you survived. They prove you felt. They prove you're still here. And more than that, they prove you're not just here to exist, you're here to create from the ashes. So give thanks, not just for the good, but for the storm that woke you up, the failure that rerouted you, the betrayal that taught you to trust yourself, the silence that made you listen, the darkness that made you build your own fire. Because now you don't need the world to make you feel seen. You see yourself, you know what you've lived through, you know what you've carried, and you're finally ready to turn all of it into something undeniably yours. Not because life made it easy, but because you made it worth it. You've been told there's a finish line, that one day you'll arrive, you'll finally make it, and everything will be smooth, easy, predictable. Let me tell you something raw and real. There is no arrival, there is only the next level, and the next level, and the next. Because mastery is not a destination, it's a practice. You don't graduate from the work, you become it. The moment you think you've arrived, you stop growing, you start coasting, and coasting leads to collapse. Every great creator knows this. Da Vinci never stopped studying. He died with unfinished projects, still experimenting. Picasso created over 50,000 pieces. Not because he needed to, because he couldn't stop creating. Even at the height of his fame, Kobe was the first in the gym. Why? Because the mission wasn't about applause, it was about mastery. That kind of devotion, that kind of daily pursuit is rare. Because most people want the reward without the rhythm. They want the impact without the repetition. They want the breakthrough without the boredom. But real mastery, it's born in the boring. The unglamorous, the quiet, the ordinary choices that look like nothing on the surface but compound into everything. Let me be clear, there is no point in this journey where you're done. No final mountain, no ultimate box checked. And that's not a curse, it's a calling. Because mastery isn't just about doing the work, it's about becoming the kind of person who never stops refining. Not out of insecurity, but out of respect. For the gift, for the mission, for the chance to build something real. That's the difference. Amateurs chase the result. Masters fall in love with the process. You want to change your life? Fall in love with the practice. Fall in love with the silence before the breakthrough, the solitude before the applause, the second draft, the early morning, the late night, the repetition. Because repetition is where the magic lives. It's where clarity sharpens. It's where your voice stops echoing others and starts becoming your own. And when you hit that place where you no longer create for validation, but for truth, that's when you know you're not just motivated, you're not just disciplined. You're devoted to the long game, to the inner game, to the sacred craft of becoming more honest, more dangerous, more clear every single day. And here's the best part. Mastery doesn't require genius, it requires consistency. It doesn't ask for a perfect past, it asks for presence. It asks that you keep showing up, especially when no one's looking, especially when the world's distracted, especially when the voices get loud and the doubts come creeping in. You show up anyway, because you no longer need the stage. You've become the instrument. And that's what people feel, that depth, that stillness, that confidence born from earned repetition. You don't need to prove anymore, you just are. You move with conviction, you speak with restraint, you build with precision because you know real power is quiet, real mastery is slow, real legacy is patient. And you're not here for hype, you're here for the long fire. The one that doesn't flicker out after the crowd leaves, the one that still burns when you're tired, uncertain, unseen. That fire lives in your hands now. Tend to it, feed it, protect it. Because the work never ends, but neither does the becoming. You've walked through the fire, you've silenced the noise, you've sacrificed comfort, you've buried the backup plan, you've carved a path with nothing but your breath, your will, and your belief. So now the question is no longer, can I do this? The question is, who am I now? Because you don't walk through this kind of process and stay the same. You don't wake up early, face the fear, break the pattern, bleed for your craft, and come out the other side unchanged. You've become someone else, someone more, someone clear, someone dangerous to every excuse you used to bow down to. And now it's time to declare it, to anchor it, to burn it into your bones with no apology and no hesitation. So repeat this, write it, say it, live it. This is your creator's creed. I am not here to wait, I am here to build. I do not worship motivation, I breathe discipline. I don't hope, I create. I'm not perfect, I am relentless. My past doesn't own me, it fuels me. I don't chase timelines, I trust the rhythm of the work. I have burned the backup plan, there is only forward. I am obsessed with the craft, loyal to the process and blind to distraction. I don't need applause, I am the proof. I am not a seeker, I am the source. I do not dabble, I deliver. I create when it's boring. I create when it's brutal. I create when no one believes because I believe. And I always will. Let that settle into your nervous system. Let it shake loose the version of you that used to hesitate. Let it replace the old script. Because you are not average. You are not potential. You are not waiting for some external sign. You are the sign. You are the one who shows up when others stall. You are the one who takes the risk. You are the one who holds the line when the winds of self-doubt howl. And every step you take from this moment forward, every project you finish, every page, you turn every structure you build from dust, it is a message, a declaration. I was here, and I didn't just wish, I created. So go now, not with fear, not with noise, but with quiet, burning clarity. You don't need a pep talk. You don't need another breakthrough. You are already the one. Now move like it. No more waiting, no more hoping, no more someday. This is your time, your mission, your life, and you are the creator now.